What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Bat Flip, where we discuss everything baseballs. I'm Landon Raby. With me, Dylan Taylor. Totally different show than last week. I mean, what a turnaround from Tuesday to Friday night. Tennessee gets a sweep over rivaled Vanderbilt. But Caleb said it last night on our show. This is what Tennessee does. They beat Vanderbilt.
It's nice. It's nice to see that the world's returned to normal,
Yeah,
even for just a weekend.
yeah. Whatever it takes. Tennessee just bullied Vanderbilt the entire weekend, and still in that game on Friday, I think it kind of took all the wind out of Vanderbilt. They just wanted to go home after that. It seemed like because Saturday, you scored 9 innings in the first. You scored 9 runs in the first inning. Sorry, got a little off there. Um, and that was the same amount Vanderbilt scored the entire series. So you just let loose the pitching. That's been the frustrating thing all season long is like you've seen the flashes. It's just Tennessee hasn't been able to put it together, and they were able to do that this weekend. Great pitching, great defense, competitive at bats. I mean, all of it was just put together, and that's why you're able to sweep a top five team in Vanderbilt, who, you know, I know they probably think that they didn't play very well, and maybe that's the case, but I thought some of their pitching was good. Tennessee just hammered their pitchers. Other
Yeah,
than the Holton, I think is how you say it, on Friday night for those, when he was in the game. Other than that, Tennessee just destroyed. They destroyed Maldonado, Futrell yesterday. I mean, they took him out. It's something not a lot of teams have been able to do is kind of dominate Vanderbilt's pitching staff, and it was a left-handed pitching staff for the majority. So that was fun to see. And Tennessee just hit behind runners. I think they're 4 for 44 or 46 last weekend with runners on base. I think they're hitting around 370 with runners in scoring position, runners on base this weekend. So just a complete turnaround from Tuesday night to Friday night. I don't know what it was. Who spiked the Gatorade in or was it the gum that Xander Seacrest chews in the dugout? I have no clue. But whatever it was, we need to keep doing it.
and Friday night was the only game that looked like an SEC game. The other two, Tennessee Tech excluded, it looked like a
Or
midweek game with some
exhibition,
of the
yeah.
scores that were put up. Yeah, I mean, it was it. You don't want to say it's frustrating because I mean, anytime you get a sweep over Vanderbilt, you'll take it. But it's frustrating to know like this is what we thought coming into the season. Like this is what we knew this team could be, and even if it's not to the extent of yeah games of 17-1 and 10-5 following up each other, but to the extent of winning games like Friday night, like that's what you could have been doing all year. It's like I said, we'll take it now. It's nice, but it's kind of it's frustrating that it kind of affirms what we thought this team could be before the year
Mhm.
started. But I mean, somebody did have a good point that this is about the time roughly last year where Ole Miss wasn't playing great and they kind of turned it on and you saw what happened there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it just seems like the young guys on this team are taking a step forward. They're not really freshmen anymore. I mean, Dylan Dowling, that moment that he had on Friday night, that's not a freshman moment. And he top golfed it out of here. That was an incredible moment. That was one of the best atmospheres and best games I've been around. One of them inside of Lindsey Nelson. Now, if y'all know me, I was at the beach for um, the game against Wright State, so I can't count that one. But in person, I was there for the Arkansas game when Max Ferguson hit that walk off. I was there for Evan Russell's 3 home run game against Vanderbilt. So I've been there for a lot of great moments, and that was just another moment that this team has had. I think somebody tweeted they've had 12 SEC series sweeps under Tony Vitello, and they had 12 the previous 15 seasons before that. So I mean, just insane where this program has come, and we're looking at this team right now. It's like here you go. It's in front of you. You prove that you can do it. Now you got to build on that and just maintain it because they've proven they can. That's a team. The team that they played this weekend should be in Omaha. Vanderbilt's probably an Omaha team, and Tennessee just demolished them. Tennessee should absolutely have a chance to go to Omaha with the talent that they have. Now they got to put it all together like they did this weekend.
I was gonna say Dreiling took his 9 iron out to get that one, but I think that's disrespectful to golfers everywhere with as far as he hit it. I mean, that looked like a pitch that was going to bounce in front of the
Yep.
plate on your ankles. Like, it's different if it's down the middle or, maybe it's outside and you reach out and poke it, but I mean, I'd love to see this is probably the only time I'll ever call for the advanced stats or the analytics part of it, just or maybe it's the physics part of it. I'd love to see a model of just how far in he got his hands to go down and get that one, because I mean, there are MLB players that can't do
Mhm.
that, and you just watched a freshman do it. Oh, and it was in the bottom of the ninth. Like, that's insane. It was the youth movement. It seemed like too. It was him. Burns still only a sophomore. We saw Burns get back into his form, even if it is a different role. Kavar Steers continues to hit everything hard that his bat, anything it touches, it comes off with flame. So it's good to see.
They might have to replace a hole in that batter's eye from Friday night with
Yeah.
Clark
I
Tears.
mean, I don't think it got higher than 10 feet off the ground. I'm surprised it didn't kill someone, maybe a tall NBA player out there. But I mean, it was Euro should watch out probably, but he tried to fight it. He probably tried to fight the ball after. But I mean, it was I. It's weird to say that you want to predict it, especially with the way this season's gone, the bottom of that ninth inning. But you saw, like, he's going to be coming up. It's two young guys, but it's two young that we have talked about and do have a little bit of the dog in them, where we've
Mhm.
seen that with the team. So if you're going to come back, the guys you want upright, it's it's nice when you think that about seniors and they deliver. It's really think that about guys that are still 18, 19 and they deliver.
Yeah. I mean, this weekend it was the competitive at bats for me. It looked very 22 esque with the team last year because, like, when you're down with two strikes, so far this season, this team has looked at times looked where it's like, oh crap, like defeated
Yeah,
almost when you get two strikes. This weekend, they didn't care. I mean, it just seemed like, hey, you're not going to throw it by me, so either you're going to walk me or I'm going to hit it somewhere hard, and that seemed to be Tennessee's motto all weekend long. And um, I mean, that's what we wanted to see so far. I mean, we wanted to see some small ball. We want to see guys just do their job, and it seemed like they just were really comfortable at the plate this weekend. I don't know. Again, I don't know what it was from Tuesday to Friday, but I don't know if it's just that V that is on Vanderbilt's hats that just pisses them off. I don't know, but there was a lot of Middle Tennessee guys. You got Drew Beam, Chase Burns, Zane Denton, Kavaris Tears, Hunter Ensley's from Huntington, which is a little in between Memphis and
yeah.
in Nashville.
West
You got
West Tennessee.
Christian Christian Scott from Clarksville. So you got a lot of guys around there in that area that chose to go to Tennessee. Maybe they weren't recruited from Vanderbilt. I don't know. But it was cool to see kind of all those guys have some moments this weekend against a team that's a lot closer than Tennessee was.
And I mean, I don't know that they're. I mean, you could probably say LSU is markedly better than Vanderbilt, but I don't know who else really in the league has looked better than them for the majority of the year so far. I mean, it's been
Mhm.
we talked about last week. It's kind of been LSU and then everybody else, but I mean, Vanderbilt's always it's rare that Vanderbilt's not going to be mentioned in that same breath. So I mean, if there's not many other teams in the country is what I'm trying to say that you this. So you did it. The only one I could think that would be LSU as far as what we've seen from
Yeah.
around the country. So that just makes it easy of get it going now. If you can do that to that team, there's nobody left on your schedule that you can't to.
Yeah. Jared Dickey's another one. He's from Mount Juliet, so he's just another guy. And hey, we've been calling it on the show for a long time. Somebody bunted down third base. You were talking about analytics a second ago. The nerds and the analytics people are sick at what Tennessee did to Vanderbilt when they tried to shift this weekend. I'm sure Tim Corbin did not sleep very much after, shifting to all those left-handed batters, and it didn't matter. We're going to hit it somewhere hard or just hit it over the fence. That's the best way to beat the shift. We did it all kinds of ways this weekend. Hit it over the fence, hit it where they're not. we bunted down third base. I mean, if it's Christian Scott or Hunter Inslee, it's probably a double if you are able to bunt it good enough down third base.
Well, it just makes it so much better too that it was Jared that did it, because it's like he's the last guy that should even have to do it, and he can even do that well too. So it's like, how do you stop him now? Like if it's somebody that's struggling and they do it, it's like, yeah, there you go. Like there's something to get you started. Jared Dickey's been
Yep.
started, but it just, maybe it's a message to other guys too. Like if he's willing to do it, like, and I want to get out in front of this too. Had a couple buddies, talk about how rough we were last week on the boys, especially me. But I'll be even rougher if this is the kind of outcome we get. Like that's what we wanted. Like, maybe some kind of spark, with this team. So if I need to be the villain, I will be. I'm glad to take the role to watch a sweep over
Well,
Vanderbilt all day.
it's okay to criticize when you're also their biggest supporter too.
Right. Right. I think we
No
can say
one's
some stuff.
happier than me and you when Tennessee wins baseball
Yeah.
games.
We sat in the cold against ETSU a few years ago. So I think we've earned that
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, if Tennessee's not a good program, I don't even know if this show actually exists. So, um, we love to see it. Love to see Tennessee beat up on Tim Corbin, 7-0 in the past 7 games, and just I forget what was we're outscoring them by. They had 9 total, so I think they had 14
40.
total runs in those 7 games. Vanderbilt has, and we have a whole lot. And I mentioned Drew Beam, and he pitched great yesterday. He's given up 1 earned run, and I think 15 and 2/3 innings against Vanderbilt. 1 earned run. That's incredible.
Wouldn't surprise me if he's a Murfreesboro kid right here where I'm at. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's a little bit of the, you wonder how involved was Vanderbilt with him.
Mhm.
Because I doubt he gets that passion from maybe a spurning from my MTSU Blue Raiders. They don't quite carry the same power, but
Yeah.
you wonder how much of that is maybe, hey, I was right there in your backyard, Vandy. You're gonna come out and shove against you. It looked like Chase Burns had that same mindset too.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Camden Sewell, kind of the Gator killer, in his career. Drew Beam, maybe Chase Burns, maybe that same kind of mentality against Vanderbilt. And guess what? They still got 1 more year. Sucks for them. I hate to you hate to see it, right?
I hate to see the fall of a program that I love, or that I hate so much,
Right,
compared to the rise of. And yeah, I mean, you talk about this show, like it definitely wouldn't be named the Bat Flip if it wasn't for the success. Like
right.
the I'm trying to come
There
up with
there
a
wasn't a
name.
whole lot of bat flipping
No,
before Tony Vitello took
no,
over.
it would have been a sarcastic name then, and you never want that.
Yeah. But yeah, too many bats for Tim Corbin to check this weekend. Again, I hate it for him. I will say this, and somebody who really impressed me this weekend, and we can go kind of game by game, but I do just like kind of pointing out people in the lineup and things they did. Maui Ahuna probably had his best weekend of baseball this weekend against Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
Hitting wise, he hit that big home run on Saturday. I thought he hit the ball well this weekend. I also thought he stole a base, which I've been calling for that. I mean, if he's that athletic, let's see some of that. But also like him at shortstop made so many plays. The one going in the outfield behind his, turn to the ball and catches it over his shoulder. You have him throwing out Enrique Bradfield Jr. going into the 5-6 hole right there. And then he had another one where he threw out Enrique Bradfield Jr. And not a lot of people are throwing out Enrique Bradfield Jr. when they have to move from their position. And Maui Huna was able to do that twice. And one was probably one of the best plays by shortstop I've seen in a long time.
it looked like the highlight reel that circulated around when it was announced he was coming here from Kansas. Kind of the same
Mm-hmm.
the same types of plays, except it's, yeah. To your point, it's against the guy that. Also, I'll eat my words here a little bit. I had the over under at 10 steals this past weekend. I
How
meant to
many
do
did he
that before
have?
I meant to check before the show and see what the final tally. I'm guessing if he had anywhere close to 10, we wouldn't have had a sweep. So
I
I'm going
think
to
it
do some
was,
advanced
I
research.
want to say 0. He only had 2 hits.
Yeah,
and that
right.
was
They didn't get on base much, so yeah,
yeah,
that was part one of the equation. So hey, I'll gladly be wrong on that too.
yeah. There might have been one, but I think when he walked or when he got on base the first time, I think it was just bases loaded. So I don't think he was able to steal. So I mean, props to Tennessee
Regardless,
keeping him
anything.
off the. I mean that was one of the one keys going into this game was keep Enrique Bradfield Jr. off the base pass, and Maui Huna was a big part in doing that. Also, the pitchers shoved it against him. I mean, he had a rough go of it on Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah, and another good start by Andrew Lindsay too. I mean, it's to the point where you see Burns shove like that, and you're like, man, I wish he was back in the rotation now. But if that's the recipe that works, where maybe Lindsay doesn't go deep in games, but can at least get you off to a good start, and let the lineup start working early. I mean, I don't hate that formula.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to stick with going forward. The way Andrew Lindsay pitched, I mean, 10 Ks, 6 2/3 inning. I mean, I didn't think he'd go that far, but he was shoving it. So I mean, ride that horse, and then you got Chase Burns in the bullpen where like he can go 6 innings himself. So I mean, there wasn't really anything to worry about. If Andrew Lindsay was going 4, I think they still would have went with Chase Burns. But he came in and got that win and had 7 Ks on Friday night, had another K on um, Sunday, which I love throwing him in there. Vanderbilt was like close to making it interesting yesterday, and they just threw Chase Burns in there in the ninth, and you just kind of saw it from Vanderbilt. It was like, any chance that we had, it's over with.
The advanced stats I just did too. Bradfield 0 steals, only
Mm,
2 hits, but yes, 0 steals.
love it, love it.
But yeah, with the staff too. I mean, it goes back to I guess you could say the youth part of it, because if he's a senior, Chase Burns probably doesn't like that move, and that speaks to his maturity for how young he is too. If he's a senior, he probably doesn't take it as well. To hey, you're going to come out of the pen, and maybe even if it is in more of that lockdown role, that's still a big switch going from a late inning guy to a starter. So it speaks to him there that he's not only willing to do that, but you saw just how fired up he was too. Where going into the final innings, he had probably the nastiest stuff we've seen from him all year. And I mean, to say he was juiced, I was going to say walking back to the dugout, but he was strutting back to the dugout. So
Yeah, them
it,
things were hanging on the way back to the
yeah,
dugout.
yeah. So it just speaks to him. It speaks to Andrew Lindsay for the fact that he's ready and willing to. And I mean, even on his since he's still, I mean, he looks like an SEC starter. It's the depth one. It does speak to the guy mentality too. I don't think mentality was ever in question with us. We more about some guys, and it's good to see that from your guys that are supposed to be done.
Yeah, and I think that was a big thing for me after Friday night. After like the wind kind of settled in a little bit, I was like, man, we get to pitch Dollander on Saturday too to get the series.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of teams aren't pitching the SEC, or no teams pitching the reigning SEC player of the year on Saturday just to claim the series win, and he was able to do that and run rule. I mean, we didn't really give him a chance to make it interesting. Scoring 9 runs in that first inning, and I mean, all 9 starters reached safely in that first inning. It was just it should have they should have just called it after that.
yeah. I would have been perfect. I mean, you
All with two
brought
outs.
up
Are
check
we the best 2-out team in the country just from this weekend?
from this weekend. Yeah, now can it go to next weekend? That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
I mean, I think 20 runs, at least 20 runs. I don't know if I counted all of them from Sunday, but yeah, at least 20 runs were scored with 2 outs this weekend from Tennessee. So, I think previous weekends it's kind of seemed like when Tennessee gets 2 outs, it's like, all right, catcher, get your gear on, like you're about to go back out there. It was kind of that thing where, but this weekend it felt different. And I'll go on record saying this: Hunter Hensley was the best center fielder in that series,
Yeah, I mean
and I don't feel bad about that. I mean, the way he played yesterday, that was an Evan Russell type performance against Vanderbilt. Now he didn't hit the grand slam, but the bombs he hit, they were mashed.
it's nice to know there's another Tennessee kid that's carrying it on too. That
Yeah,
just always call back to that.
he's just a sophomore too. Well, redshirt sophomore, but still a sophomore.
And guess what? He well, did he steal a base? I was gonna say he had the same amount of steals as Bradfield did, but I was like, maybe he did steal one. I don't think he
I don't
did,
know. Yeah,
but
we
hey,
don't steal very much, but I mean, we didn't have to. We were hitting the
don't have,
ball
yeah,
so well.
yeah, don't have to.
No reason to risk it. But yeah, it was so much fun this weekend, and I do want to go back to the defense. I think that was a huge part. I mean, the one hit Chase Burns gave up, Griffin Merritt threw the guy out at second base um, in that Friday night game, and that was a huge moment in that game to get that lead runner out. Um, I don't know what the momentum looked like at that point, but that seemed to take a huge momentum swing when that happened in favor of Tennessee. And you have Christian Scott. He made a diving play. I mentioned Maui Ahuna. I mean, just kind of everybody had a huge part in the defense, and that's only going to help your pitchers out. Your pitchers are going to throw a lot better knowing the defense behind them is going to make plays. And I think when your defense is making plays, I think those guys aren't carrying it over to the plate. And so I think it's just kind of a full circle thing there where you just have a ton of confidence the way that you're playing on defense. It leads to great offense, and your pitchers have the confidence in you to go out there and shove it the way they did.
And you don't want to call it a lack of team chemistry, but I think Vitello said in one of his little post game hits on SEC Network there, I don't remember the exact phrase he used, but it was basically saying like some guys were finding out they had a little dog in them, like to use the
Mhm.
phrase, like you seeing some guys that had finally started to show some fight a little bit. I don't know what the best way to word it is, but I was going to ask you. That's it's kind of a two-way effect. It's good when your pitchers are shoving because your fielders kind of get in the mode of like, hey, let's help this guy out. Like he's shoving, he's not giving up hits. If he does give up a hit, let's help him out and let's keep a clean sheet. It also helps your fielders, or it helps everybody is what I'm trying to say, because I don't know if earlier in the season, kind of in this losing streak a little more, maybe from the first game, maybe if you lose that one, I don't know if you see it too, but the amount of kind of trash talk that there was Friday night, I mean, there's going to be quite a bit when these two teams get together. I don't know that you see the moment on Saturday then where Christian Moore stands up for Dolander like that, regardless of what you think of the play, because I personally didn't think there was any negative intent there, but
Mhm.
it's still kind of one of those things where like you kind of, even if the guy didn't mean it, you want your guy to go over and be like, hey, don't do that again. Like even if you didn't mean it, don't touch him. So
Yeah,
I loved that part of it, and it wound up like that was by far the best game of the season for Christian Moore to be suspended for, because
yeah,
that's, I mean, you didn't, not to say you didn't need him, but by the end of the first inning, it was pretty much a wrap already.
right. And Kendra had a big hit in that game, and that's I think Tony Vitello said that in his press conference after that. After he kind of said the whole I don't want to go to jail part.
Yeah.
He basically said like, "Hey, it's going to give a guy another opportunity tomorrow to make something happen," and Kendra did that. He had a big double in that game. Um, I thought he played pretty well defensively too. So, you know, having a freshman in that spot to claim that sweep over a top five team like that, I think is probably big for his development. Yeah, you'd absolutely want to have your starting second baseman in there, but kind of like you said, it at the end of the day, it didn't matter, and Kendra um, did well enough in that spot to earn his playing time, earn his keep a little bit. Now, I don't think he took Christian Moore's um, spot, but Christian Moore did kind of struggle in this series a little bit. He was kind of the one of the few that did. Other than Friday night, kind of struggled at the plate, but you got to find your way somehow. I thought he played good defensively. I thought he work some counts, and everybody kind of did. They worked those counts and worked those pitchers into a pitch count where they're able to get in that bullpen pretty early. Um, so I mean, let's talk about the whole ejection thing, because I mean Tony Vitello, like if you watched him during that whole like spat with the umpire, he's just like, how? And he's moving his arms like in his pockets and he's taking them out. He's like trying to like keep his cool as much as possible. But he's also like, there is no way in hell that Christian Moore should have been ejected for literally telling somebody that you don't push a pitcher. You don't. You're going to get a reaction from anybody if that happens.
Yeah, it was my favorite moment of the whole series just because it was like there's the fight. Like even though we'd seen it,
And we're up
when
17-1 and we're still
yeah,
ready to
right,
scrap. I love that.
right.
Yeah.
Even though we'd seen it with the scores the past 2 days, that was my favorite moment. And what was a negative moment for Tennessee overall, that I loved that so much just because it was like even in a game that should have been over innings ago, where it's just clear who the better team is that day, he's still ready to go to war for somebody. The ejection, my immediate thought was, do you eject a pitcher for brushing a guy back? No, like it's
Yeah. And there
that's
is such
more
thing as a warning because Aaron Combs
right.
got a warning for, talking back to the hitter. Also, Aaron Combs, he has the biggest kahunas on this
Yeah,
team. That kid does not give a rat's ass who's on the base pass, who's up to bat. He literally walked a guy just to get to Vanderbilt's best hitter just so he could strike him out. It was insane.
that's and again, it's I don't know. It's one of the dumber ejections I've seen. Just because you don't eject a guy. If you ejected guys for sending a message, there'd be a lot more ejections, and there's
Mhm.
already a lot of this crap going on. That's just, I mean, we 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 hate Florida, but we hated to see what happened in Florida. I loved the response of just the no celebration after hitting the home run, where there's an ejection for shouting at the other dugout. It's ridiculous. But my point is, you don't eject MLB players for sending a message.
Mhm.
Now, like if you throw at a guy's head 3 times and you hit him on the third one, and it's apparent, like okay, that's something where you're putting somebody's safety in risk. If you touch an opposing player, then Christian Moore did the things. He ran to the kid, didn't touch him, at least from any angle I saw. Got his face, don't do that. Was upset. But what did he do wrong?
Well, my thing is if you can't automatically eject somebody, and like you can review it all you want to, but there's nothing to review. He didn't touch him.
Right.
So if you can't automatically eject somebody, then it shouldn't be an ejection. I don't understand how it could be.
I don't.
If
Yeah.
if no contact is made, and what did you review?
Right. What rule did he break that you were looking at?
Did he run too fast at the opposing player? I mean, what are we doing?
The only thing I could think that they would think that they have a grounds on is if unsportsmanlike conduct is an ejectable offense. Well, I don't think
It's
it
not
is.
any others.
I
Yeah.
could be wrong. Maybe it is in baseball, and if that's the case, then it's a dumb rule because then it's another thing to be up to an umpire's opinion. Then so that's a messy situation as we've seen with other rules. So if that's
Well,
the
like a
only
hard
thing,
slide is just like you're out.
right? That's the only
So
thing you're saying. If that is even a rule, if you're saying he broke that rule, then that's dumb in itself. But if it's not, like I would, if I'm Tony V, I think I'm just saying like what grounds are you ejecting him on? Like
yeah, I
what
mean
did he
Tony
do?
V's he's dropping f bombs in the dugout.
Right, like
So like it
everybody
is
is.
it's nothing like you haven't heard it during the game so far. So
The
I just
umpires do too. Like what?
I mean
Like,
the most egregious thing was the way the umpires shoved Christian Moore.
right.
He should have been ejected.
Yeah, it was. I loved it so much, but it's just I don't know. I don't want to go off on umpires because we could turn this to a 2 hour
Yeah,
show.
I mean, like with the Vanderbilt player, like it's something like I don't know if there was any intent to it. I think that guy was a pinch hitter, so I don't think there was much to it. I mean, look at the score, but he did shove Tennessee's starting pitcher off the bag where he could get to it. I mean, here's the thing: like, don't we throw out a runner for running into the catcher? If don't they have to like make an attempt to get out of the way or slide?
It's different there just from what I saw, just because Dolander was technically in the base path, but at the same time, like he wasn't in
He could
the,
have
the
slid, right?
the runner wasn't in danger of being thrown out there. Like he's going back to the bag before. I mean, I'd have to go back and watch just to see the time difference. If any Vandy fan wants to be specific in my mentions, but I mean he, he was from here to this chair next to me of being back to the bag before Moore had even caught it. So it's not like it's about to be a bang bang play, and it's not like Dolander is actively, playing left tackle trying to keep him from the base there. Like he's trying to get out of the way too, it looked like. So I didn't have a problem with the Vandy kid. I don't think he did anything. He kind of
Yeah.
looked confused for the most part. Like even when Moore run up on
Yeah,
him,
he was like, "Oh god."
you could tell he got mad and was mouthy when he saw somebody run up on him. But like I understand it in that case. But at first he kind of looked around like what's everybody so mad at? So I didn't,
Yeah. I mean,
even
Tim
though he's
Corbin, I think he mentioned after that he didn't really see anything either.
yeah,
It was just it was kind of overblown. I feel like the umpire just could have pushed Christian Moore back and it would have been fine. But I mean,
right.
we're talking about leaving the bench. I mean, the whole Vanderbilt team was on the third baseline. So
Yeah.
I
I mean, all the umpires should do in that case be like, hey, just grab Moore, say, hey, like he didn't mean to do it. You're up this much. He's not
yeah.
trying to do
Yeah,
anything. Like,
you in that
you're good.
moment control the game. You don't have to
Right.
control the players, but control the game. And it just seems, yeah, it was just very overblown by the umpires. It just felt like they were like, yeah, we have to do something. You don't. You don't. For once in your life, you don't have to make a call.
Umpires are supposed to de-escalate
Correct.
situations, and there's way too many cases now where you see guys at the MLB level. They sometimes a guy will be walking away, like yeah, he's still mouthing at the umpire, but he's walking to his dugout, like he's not taking the situation even further. He's just getting his final words, and you'll see the umpire like start walking to their dugout. It's like, well, no, don't, like you're just getting the situation even hotter now. Like just mouth to each other, stay where you are, keep the game going. Like there's too many umpires that I get it. You're a man. You don't want somebody talking back to you without you talking back too. But at the same time, you can do it from here without taking the situation from a 5 to a 10,
Yeah.
which is what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, there just wasn't a lot. But we'll kind of move on from that. I do want to get your take on like what you do in the outfield because I think there is kind of a problem where like you have so many guys that are producing for you. And I think Hunter Inslee is a mainstay there. I think with Cal Stark
Yeah,
behind the plate, which I'll kind of ask you that too. Is Cal Stark your catcher going forward?
yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So Jared Dickey's going to be in the outfield. What do you do at the other outfield spot and DH? Because you got Tiers, you got Christian Scott, and you got Dylan Dreiling who and Griffin Merritt. Those four guys, with two spots remaining. And, I thought it was crazy when I saw the lineup card on Saturday that Merritt and Dreiling weren't in the lineup. But then you go out and score 9 runs in the first and you score 17. I mean,
Yeah.
I look like an idiot. But and Tony V, just looks like the smartest person in the world for it. So I don't know what you do. I think it's a good problem to have, but I don't know what you would do in that situation in terms of like who's the two starters in that position for you.
For me, yeah, Inslee's the mainstay in center at this point, and he's one of your most consistent players. There's no danger there. I still go back to, even with his struggles the last couple weeks. I mean, it looks like he broke out of that a little bit now. I still go back to the fact that if Griffin Merritt is going, if he's producing, he is an X factor. I think I've been saying it since the second show we did this year. Like
Mhm.
he's a guy that if Tennessee's going to make a deep run, he's got to be one of them that's hitting the ball. You know, he's not anything below average on defense. He had a nice cannon of an arm, and he fields his position well enough. So that's not really concerned with him. It's just being a consistent hitter and knowing like you don't have to take everything deep. Just do enough to help win. So I've got to stick with my point just of him being an X factor that it's like if he's going, this lineup can go to a whole new level. So in my perfect world, he's in right field, and then whoever you think the better defender is. Dryling's played more left field, so I would probably lean to Dryling in left, Tiers DHing. That would be my perfect world. Now,
So where's
if you
Jared
think
Dickey
Tiers,
then?
oh, I forgot about that. Rough. I had Dickey catching then. So, but I don't want Dickey catching. So that's a good point.
It's tough because I think I think you're right with Griffin Mara. I think he has to be in the lineup somewhere just because. And the added bonus, he's a right-handed bat, and you don't have a lot of those.
Can Griffin Merritt catch? I'm just throwing it out there. Just
Yeah.
asking. Hey, maybe he's a high school catcher. We don't know about it. In that case, then yeah, I mean Dickey's one of your outfield spots. As much as I love Kavaris Tears, I would still go with Dryling over him just because I feel like he's been a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, I
But
just, dude, that swing and that power, it would be hard for me to
at
say no, you're not in the lineup because that dude
at this point,
rakes.
yeah, I mean at this point, maybe I would go Tears
But
over
then
Merritt.
Christian Scott's your better defenders, so
Right.
it's a weird problem. I don't know if you could just go by matchup or what or who has the hot hand. Um, but yeah, it's can any of those play defense? I mean that was a question before the game on Sunday. It was like, can any of those guys play second base?
Tears is or not Tears. Sorry, Christian Scott is out of it for me. I like him as a guy that can come in as a pinch hitter later.
Mhm,
That's if he gets the hit, great. But he runs the bases well, and he's a good fielder. So that's what you're going to need in the late innings of some really important games. And it's nothing against him, but I just think as an everyday player, those other three guys are just more talented overall than he
mhm.
is. And I mean, I think that's kind of obvious just because you've never really seen Christian Scott consistently crack the lineup. And you kind of wonder if he was going to do it by now, he probably would have put it together by now. Nothing against him. I just think that's his best role. So I don't know. It may just in that case, it may be a matchup based thing where against righties, Tears is in, against lefties, Merritt's in. But at the same time, like I don't know. It is a good
Yeah,
problem to have. You posed it very
yeah.
well. It's a very
Yeah, I mean, you can talk
tough
yourself in
question to answer.
circles for hours about it,
Right.
but and I'm sure Tony is having that same issue as well, but, um
Who would you? Because I feel like out of I would if you're talking Tears Dryling, I would lean Dryling just barely. I don't know what you think.
I'm kinda on the same way. I think the way Griffin Merritt has played the field, I like him in the field. If you're gonna lose Christian Scott as a fielder, I think you gotta go Griffin Merritt. Um, I think I'm going Kavaris Tears just because of that power, man. And Dylan Drawling's had a lot of great moments too, and that's why you kind of mentioned Christian Scott coming in as a late pinch hitter. I kind of like Dylan Drawling because
Yeah, it's
he's
hard to
done it
argue.
all year.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just
that's
Mr. Clutch. No moment is too big for him. So I like Dylan Drawling to come in, and I don't think it could be the first time through the lineup. If somebody has a terrible at bat, I think you could go Drawling. I don't have an issue with that.
I'm looking up right now just to see the stats and just because I wonder how similar they are. Just because I could be wrong. And Dryling is a hitter where Tears does have a lot more power. Even again, I mean, he hit one off his shoestrings to right center field about
Yeah.
halfway up the light pole. So I feel like I have assumptions about both of them that I'm like, I really don't know if that's true or not. So it's tough
Yeah, I
to,
just know the forearm hit when they hit a home run. I feel like Kavaris Tears would dislocate my shoulder if I were to do that to him.
I'm convinced Kavaris Tears could play outside linebacker for us. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
that's,
mean we should have had him. Was it 2 springs ago where we had like two
yeah.
people at linebacker. I mean, they
Shout
should have
out
just,
Will
gave him a
Albright
little bit
was
more scholarship money. I
yeah,
don't
Will
know.
Albright was at linebacker,
Yeah.
former lawn snapper.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a rough one. But yeah, it is a good problem to have. Tennessee just continues to um, have a roller coaster of a season. I don't even really know what to say about it. I just think time was ticking, and they needed a good series like this. I didn't think they would sweep. And honestly, coming off last weekend and Tuesday night, I didn't think they. I probably thought they might have got swept, but they proved us wrong. They proved everybody wrong, and they like to be doubted. Hey, if that's what it takes, and maybe it was just they needed the daddy hat and the fur coat back. I don't know who like wanted to put that away, but I love that it's back. And if that's all they needed, then let's run with it.
I was surprised. I thought it was banned. I thought that was why it went away. I didn't.
Now you
I
could
knew
have it in the dugout.
you just couldn't take it onto the field.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, maybe that's what. Maybe they were like, well, if we can't take it to the on deck circle, we might just start something new. So, because
yeah.
I feel like that is a little bit less to take out than a
Which I
Vader
feel like the
mask.
daddy hat, like there's such a big crowd around walking into the dugout. You can slip that thing on.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Nobody's gonna
did kind
notice.
of like the saber, but it just wasn't working. They needed something different, and if that's what gets you going, let's roll with it.
I'm fine.
Daddy
They
hats are
could
back.
put on a fur coat and Well, I guess they are putting on a fur coat. I
Yeah,
was thinking of something outlandish we could do, and I thought of
we do
what
it.
we actually do. Yeah,
Fur coat and a pink hat.
yeah, that's perfect. Hey, somebody should get on that real quick.
Yeah. Um. Anything else for the Vols? Big weekend coming up against Mississippi State. Kind of struggling a little bit. Lost that series to Auburn this past weekend. This is a team I feel like at home because you're 1-9 on the road. I feel like you want to win all the games you can at home, and and hopefully you're able to get better on the road. That'd be nice because you got South Carolina and Kentucky or South Carolina and Georgia on the road. Georgia's coming off a sweep against Arkansas, so that one's going to be a tough one. But you're through the gauntlet. Now you got some good teams left. It doesn't get a ton easier, but it is a little bit more, less firepower from these teams: Mississippi State, Georgia, Kentucky. Kentucky lost to Texas A&M, who you swept. So, and they beat you last year, so you got to have their number. Tennessee needs to get some wins under their belt. Make sure, I mean, Hoover's number one. You got to get to Hoover before you can get to the NCAA tournament. But I think if you're able to get to Hoover, take care of business the rest of the way, NCAA tournament will come. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Tennessee can still host. I mean,
Oh,
you're in the top 24 right now, top 25, you're 24th in the country right now per D1 baseball. You win a couple series here in a row, I mean, you're going to be knocking right back on the door of the top 10.
yeah. I mean, Mississippi State kind of one of those teams that out of selling their soul feels a little heavy, but you kind of wonder about the drop off since the Natty they had not too long ago, especially to see your rival
Mm-hmm.
win it right after that. That's a tough look, but they're still a good program, so you got to get through them. But I mean, it does kind of open up, even though there's been some teams that have had past success against you. It does. This is we talk about it on here all the time. There's never any breaks in the SEC. This is kind of a little period though where it's not quite the murderer's row that you've had to go through now. So that if there was any time to make a run, that this is the time. I agree with you. I still think they could easily host. But you got to play like you did this weekend. You
Yeah.
can't have any of the you know past performances come out because not this that is one thing I did want to ask you before we wrap. We heard a lot before this series of like didn't have to sweep, but you kind of did have to win. It was kind of in must win mode from that. Do you think this has given us enough padding now to where from here on out everything's got to be dominant like that, or did that kind of buy us a little bit of grace? Because I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean South Carolina at South Carolina, that's a tough one to kind of think like you have to win that one. I don't think you can get swept anymore, and I do think you probably need a sweep. Two would be nice, but I do think you need a sweep in there, whether that's Georgia, whether that's Kentucky. Mississippi State this weekend. I do think you need to get all the SEC wins you can get um, if you're really serious about wanting to host a regional. And if you go sweep two of those, and whatever happens at South Carolina, and you beat Kentucky, I do think like if you make it to a super, I do think that's still a possibility. Now you got to take care of business, maybe make a run in Hoover, but they're going to look what you did at the back end of the season, what you did to Vanderbilt. You're able to beat the brakes off Florida in one game, beat the brakes off LSU in another game. I mean, you do. The Missouri game is just that series. I don't even know what happened there, and Arkansas the same way. Um, but I do think this team can put it together, and them putting us back in the top 20, top 25. I feel like they want to like have Tennessee higher,
Yeah.
but it's like I kind of need to see it again before I can really put them back in the conversation as a contender for Omaha.
Well, and we talked kind of about the negatives all year of the way last year went. You kind of had that target on your back. Like not many people like you. The one positive now where it can help you is, yeah, you've got that little bit of a reputation, but people also associate good baseball the last couple of years with Tennessee. So
Mhm.
that is going to help you when it comes to this time of year. If you take care of just enough of your end where maybe you do struggle a little bit and it's going to be kind of a borderline decision. I don't know about you. I'd say most of the people making the decisions, though, and the powers that be would want to see Tennessee in. Just
Yeah.
whether it's can they get hot at the right time, win it all, or maybe it's for more negative reasons where it's like, yeah, let's put them in and, maybe it'll shut them up to, get their butts handed to them one time. So that it may not seem like it, but the reputation could actually help you in this situation because, you know, people tuned in to watch Tennessee last year and they'll probably do the same this year for whatever reason. They'll probably do it.
Yeah, that orange just pops on TV. I love to see it. Let's go MVP real quick, and we'll get out of here. I'll let you go first.
Um, I want to say Dryly just because of the moment of how big that was, but I'll go Griffin Merritt just because I feel like he had two plays that may have saved your
Yeah,
season. Like it kind of felt like once you got into extras, like hey, somebody's going to end it here. It kind of felt like that was Tennessee's game. Then you're kind of waiting, like oh, when's it going to fall apart? But just the feel of that game was kind of like somebody's going to win it for us. Who is it? It was nice to see Merritt do it, and then the outfield assist he had too in two big moments. He stepped up. I didn't check the stats. I don't know overall. Burns had a great weekend. There's several guys that may be more deserving overall wise, but he had two moments that if you make a run this year, you're going to be looking back at this series and you're going to be looking back at which plays decided, and he's got multiple there. So I've got to go with him for that
yeah,
reason.
I like that one because I definitely think he was somebody that Tennessee fans kind of wrote off as like he's probably done. We might have seen the last of Griffin Merritt with the freshmen coming on the way that they have, but experience is hard to replicate, and so putting him in those positions and him producing like that, um, you know, I guess my advice is don't write anybody off, especially this Tennessee baseball team, because here they come. So my MVP is going to be Chase Burns, SEC Pitcher of the Week. 4 innings pitch, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 8 Ks. I mean, just a phenomenal performance. Showed the emotion, had the stuff. I mean, he looks like the most intimidating bullpen arm in the country. And I'd like to see Arkansas had their Kevin Kopps. Kevin Kopps didn't have the stuff that Chase Burns does.
Stuff wise, there's nobody coming out of the bullpen in college baseball that has what
Yeah,
he has. That was
yeah,
filth
yeah.
this weekend.
So, yeah, love to see that, and I think he's going to make some money in the big. He might have found his calling as a reliever because relievers can pitch for a long time, um, in the bigs like that, and I think Chase Burns has the stuff to do that.
Especially a
Yep.
multi-inning guy with a
Yep.
starter background like that. That he's not a come in to close 20 pitches and he's getting tired. Like you saw what he can do over multiple innings to lock
Right.
down. So it's very Kevin Kopps
Yep.
esque.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week talking about the series against Mississippi State that starts on Thursday. You got Bellarmine tomorrow night inside Lindsey Nelson. So be there. And y'all have a good rest of your week. Peace.